everybody, Lucy from Mrs H's Favourite Things here. I am 35 plus 5 weeks pregnant with our second baby. And if any of you have been following my blog or my vlogs for a while, then you probably know that I suffer from long-term recurring depression, and at times it has been really bad. I've been on antidepressants, different types of antidepressants, pretty much consistently since I was 20. I had a brief period of about 6 months where I had been weaned off antidepressants by my psychiatrist in an effort to see how I could manage, and I became quite ill. It ended with me having a few months off work and being put back on antidepressants. And at that time, Mr H and I had been discussing with my psychiatrist and GP, etc., the fact that we were hoping to start a family, and so I was put on an antidepressant, which is the safest antidepressant for women to be on in pregnancy, and you can breastfeed on it as well. And I was put on that, and I was on that all the way through my pregnancy with little Miss H, and I have been on it all the way through my pregnancy with little Mr H, and it's probably one of the best antidepressants I've been on. I've been on quite a few. I've had varying successes with them. But I am on the maximum dosage because of my long-term history, the number of relapses I've had, the severity of my depression at times. Yes, I am on the maximum dose. Realise it's quite a controversial subject. Many people probably watching this would think that I'm a terrible person, terrible mother, so I'm putting my baby at risk. But the way I see it is you have to weigh up the risks. And I think doctors and patients have to do this for any kind of medication they're on during pregnancy, or any kind of illness, long-term illness that they have, and when they're pregnant. You have to weigh up the risk to you and to the baby against the risk of you not being on medication. And the risk of me not being on medication, especially now I am a mother and a stay-at-home mum and a wife, is bad. Even on medication I have my really down days and I really struggle, but I'm maintained because I'm on antidepressants. It kind of maintains my level of serotonin and all that jazz, which really can affect your mood. So I don't actually feel any shame about the fact that I take antidepressants and I am heavily pregnant. I have been monitored all the way through my pregnancy because of my history of recurrent miscarriage, but also because the antidepressants can affect the baby's heart. I have to admit, and if anyone has read any of my recent posts on my blog, then I have gone into this a bit, that this pregnancy has been a real struggle. I was very lucky with little Miss H. My depression was pretty much on an even keel all the way through out my pregnancy with her. I did have times when I was very tearful and emotional. Mostly I was absolutely fine, and then afterwards, although both Mr H and I were kind of on postnatal depression alert, I was good. I had the struggles of a new mum, tiredness, exhaustion, hormones, all of that, struggling with breastfeeding, all of that. But yeah, my depression wasn't bad. In this pregnancy, it hasn't been terrible by any means. I'm not ill to the extent I have been in the past. It's just probably not as good as I would like it to be. Getting up some mornings has been a bit of a struggle. Going out and seeing people, I've had to kind of force myself. I've had to put a brave face on. But really, it's kind of understandable with our history of recurrent miscarriage that I was always going to be really, really nervous and anxious throughout this pregnancy, and that's had an effect on my depression. I do also need to say that although I am on antidepressants and the maximum dosage, my risk of having prenatal or postnatal depression is sort of 85 to 90%. It's quite a high risk. It is much higher a risk than a woman who's never had any kind of mental health problems. So therefore, obviously, the fact that I'm on antidepressants is very important. So as we approach little Mr H's birth, there are worries there that are in the back of my mind, that I think are in the back of Mr H's mind, about are we rocking the boat a bit by having another baby? I was fine last time, am I going to be fine this time? It's just important to be wary. I'm very lucky, I've got a fantastic support network in place. Mr H is brilliant. He often spots symptoms of my depression not being very good before I do, which is really great. My midwife is fantastic and has agreed to come and visit me at home weekly for about a month or so after baby has been born, to monitor my mood, etc. Similarly, my health visitor is also going to sort of tag team with her, I think. As I say, I've seen a consultant. Recently have been referred as well to the local mental health service, so hopefully I'll be able to talk to someone maybe with more of a mental health background than either my midwife or my health visitor. I'm also putting some things in place so I don't put too much pressure on myself when the baby is born. So with little Miss H, I had a lot of breastfeeding problems, and I actually put far too much pressure on myself to breastfeed. So this time I have made some decisions that, again, people might not agree with, but this is what I have to do for my family. I am going to try and breastfeed again, but if it doesn't work, then I know there are other options. So I can express, or we can use formula. And I do actually think that formula was designed for situations like mine. I'm not going to feel guilty about it, but that's the situation. But one of the really major issues about being on antidepressants when pregnant is withdrawal for the baby. So when I was pregnant with little Miss H, this wasn't something that was really talked about or mentioned with me, Mr H, or anybody. I think briefly I remember one of the consultants saying, oh, it'd be really good for you to breastfeed to prevent withdrawal, and that was it, and it wasn't discussed again. Whereas this time, because little Miss H was very ill when she was first born, she had very low blood sugar and she was borderline hypoglycemic, that went on for days. But having done research since then, I have discovered that low blood sugar is quite a common withdrawal symptom from drugs like antidepressants. And if I think about it, it seems really obvious to me now, and to Mr. H as well, because I know what I'm like when I have missed a tablet for a day or 2 days. Actually, the thought of my newborn baby going through that and people not realising that's what was happening, it's quite heartbreaking to me, and to Mr. H. And now looking back, as soon as I started really expressing my colostrum for little Miss H in the hospital, her blood sugars picked up. So that is a sign that I needed to do something about baby's withdrawal this time. So I've talked to my consultant, I've talked to my midwife, and it's on my notes that they need to test baby carefully when he is first born to check for withdrawal symptoms. But one of the things I'm doing that's mainly being discussed with women like myself who are on some kind of medication, high blood pressure, diabetes, epilepsy, something like that, and it's about harvesting colostrum. So from 36 weeks, which I will be in 2 days, I have to basically start manually expressing my colostrum into a syringe, which I then will put in the colostrum into a little freezer bag and freeze it, and then when I go into labour, all those little pouches of colostrum will be put into an ice bag, which we will take to the hospital. They will then freeze it, and then if there are any problems when little Mr. H is born and he can't latch and he just can't get my milk for whatever reason, then we have a supply, and so you can be given that. So hopefully this will make a huge difference. So that's my serious vlog. I felt that I needed to stand up and say that for me, for my condition, for my life, for my family, it's important for me to be on antidepressants in pregnancy, because I have long-term recurring depression. It's not going to go away. It's actually part of me now. It's part of my life. It's part of my family's life. And being on antidepressants mostly keeps it at bay. And moving forward into this new exciting chapter of our lives where we will have 2 children, I don't want my depression rearing its ugly head and causing chaos or problems. And if being on antidepressants for however long that will be is what I need to do. If you found this video interesting, helpful, then please do give it a thumbs up and a like. I hope to see you soon for another vlog. Take care. Bye!